Okay, it's 5:30. Let's go ahead and start the March 17th Monroe County Plan Commission meeting. And the director would take and conduct the roll call. That'd be great.
Okay, David Bush.
Here.
Margaret Clements. Here. Tronan Wright Randolph.
Here.
Scott Ferris.
Here.
Ruth Fields. David Henry. Jeff Morris.
Here.
Okay, it's virtual. Julie Thomas. Joe Van Deventer. Stephen Bishop.
Present.
Okay, so we have 7 voting members in attendance, 1 non-voting member in attendance, and 6 members in person.
So while you're at it, go ahead and introduce the evidence, if you would, please.
I'd like to introduce the following items into the evidence. The Monroe County Development Ordinance as adopted and amended. The Monroe County Zoning and Subdivision Control Ordinance as adopted and amended. The Monroe County Comprehensive Plan as adopted and amended. The Monroe County Plan Commission Rules of Procedure as adopted and amended. And the cases that were legally advertised and scheduled for a hearing for tonight.
Move approval.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to go ahead and approve the introduction of evidence. A vote yes is a vote to approve. Margaret Clements?
Yes.
Yes.
Scott Ferris?
Yes.
David Henry?
Yes.
Jeff Morris?
Yes.
Julie Thomas?
Yes.
David Bush?
Yes.
Motion is approved, 7-0.
Okay, that brings us to the agenda, and we have a couple of changes to the agenda. It looks like PUO 25-4, which is the Point PUD outline plan for the Eagle Bay garages has been continued by the petitioner. And right before the meeting, down under new business, SAD 2522, which is a Pratt Prince Administrative Subdivision Type E, that also is continued by the petitioner as well. Other than that, there's no other changes to the agenda unless anybody has something to note.
I'd like to move approval.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to go ahead and continue 2 items from tonight's agenda. One was advertised, which is the Eagle Point, and the second is a new continuance, which is SAD-25-22, Pratt Prince Administrative Subdivision Type E. A vote yes is a vote to amend the agenda to do the following continuances. Tronan Wright Randolph?
Yes.
Scott Ferris?
Yes.
David Henry?
Yes.
Jeff Morris?
Yes.
Julie Thomas?
Yes.
David Bush?
Yes.
Margaret Clements?
Yes.
Motion is approved, 7-0.
Next up, we have approval of the minutes, and the minutes are dated February 17th of 2026. Do I have a motion and a second to approve?
Move approval. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to go ahead and approve the meeting minutes. A vote yes is a vote to approve. Scott Ferris?
Yes.
David Henry?
Yes.
Jeff Morris?
Yes.
Julie Thomas?
Yes.
David Bush?
Yes.
Margaret Clements?
Yes.
Tronan Wright Randolph?
Yes.
Motion is approved, 7-0.
That takes us to administrative business. We have one item. It looks like we have a change to the calendar. If the director would explain the change, please.
Sure. The only change that you'll see on the screen here is to the meeting by the Board of Zoning Appeals, and that meeting has changed from July 1st to now be July 8th. So if approved, that would be the only change to the meeting calendar.
Move approval as stated. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the meeting calendar with the one change for the meeting for the Board of Zoning Appeals. A vote yes is a vote to approve. David Henry?
Yes.
Jeff Morris?
Yes.
Julie Thomas?
Yes.
David Bush?
Yes.
Margaret Clements?
Yes.
Tronan Wright Randolph?
Yes.
Scott Ferris.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 7-0.
Okay, that takes us to our first item under unfinished business, which is PUO 235, which is the planned unit development outline plan, and the request is to revise the West Rangeview Circle from a public to a private road classification. Sean, would you go ahead and lead us in that discussion? That would be great.
Sure. So this was heard at the February 17th Plan Commission meeting. It was a preliminary meeting, so this would be the final meeting, unless continued. So I'll just go through the request briefly. So for the public, this request is seeking an outline plan amendment to the Highlands PUD to revise the inner loop known as Rangeview Circle. And that request is to reclassify the road from a public to a private road. If the Plan Commission were to approve this, or it would go to the county commissioners for final approval, and if they were to approve it, then that would change the road classification to a private road, which would mean that a private entity, in this case, the developer, would be responsible for the upkeep and maintaining the road. Or if they were to sell that to an HOA, the HOA would become the responsible entity for maintaining that roadway. And just to briefly go over some of the issues with getting this accepted into the road inventory were noted by the Highway Department, and those include the proposed buildings being built at a higher elevation than what the plans called for, the cross slopes for the sidewalks in the right-of-way being greater than 2%, which is not ADA compliant. Mailboxes being located within the right-of-way, parking stripes being painted incorrectly, so they were painted perpendicularly and not parallel, and also numerous sidewalk cracking. So the development otherwise has been completed, but to resolve many of these issues would likely require significant either deconstruction of the existing buildings and/or driveways. And again, I'll just go through this briefly. As far as site conditions are concerned, there's not necessarily anything that pokes out at us. It is located in Perry Township, located just off of South Rockport Road. Again, it is located in a PUD that was created by the city of Bloomington. This was originally approved in 2018. So the developer's intent at that time was to make Rangeview Circle private. However, the Plan Commission did opt to vote to make it public. Much of that concern was placing that burden of the cost of maintaining the roadway on homeowners. So that is the justification the Plan Commission offered for making it public. And that vote was ultimately voted upon to be public. The entire development is owned by the petitioner, and the units are currently being occupied. So those are being rented out as we speak. This was broken up into 3 phases. Primarily, the issues located within the development are located in phase 1 and phase 2. This development does still have some final LUCs to be granted, but has received LUCs over time. Again, that we covered this at the previous Plan Commission meeting, so I'm just going to go through it briefly here. One thing to note is that the developer did meet with staff earlier this month in March 2026 and agreed to some of the improvements that were noted as being deficient, and those are shown as green in the staff report. However, the petitioner has not provided staff a time frame or a status update on getting South Wickens Street accepted into the road inventory. These are some site photos of the site as it exists as of 2026. And then this brings me to additional information that was provided to staff from the prior meeting. And I will just go through these since this is new information. On the left-hand side of the screen, I have a table with noted deficiencies that was recorded by the Highway Department from their site inspection. And then on the right-hand side, I have the action that the petitioner is either willing or not willing to take. So in this case, I have noted the deficiencies that the petitioner is unwilling to make. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, I have the location of said deficiencies. One deficiency in particular that staff is primarily concerned with are the parking stripes and the 6-foot ADA sidewalk requirement. So that section was otherwise not part of the original approved plans. The original approved plans showed parallel parking, did not show perpendicular parking. And then, of course, the sidewalks are not ADA compliant. So as stated previously, the only way to correct that would be to restripe the area to be parallel parking per the approved plan set, as well as potentially taking out the sidewalk and redoing it. This is not something that the petitioner has cited he is willing to do. So some of those deficiencies that the Highway Department had noted being that they mill down and overlay a 48 by 21-foot area section of asphalt. And that is located down here in the corner of the screen. Replace a 6-foot section of curb and gutter. Install a riser on a manhole located here where my cursor is. Remove pavement parkings for angled parking. That's what we had discussed with that parking stripes. Remove private signage from within the right-of-way, located on the south section of Rangeview Circle here. Replace 139 feet of sidewalk, located along the addresses between 1284 and 1290 West Rangeview Circle. No private water lines located within the right-of-way. I don't have additional information on exactly what private line that is and exactly where it is located, other than it is located on the south portion of Rangeview Circle. We do believe that that might actually be an irrigation system. Sidewalks between 1214 and 1242 West Rangeview Circle. Again, that's the 6-foot ADA sidewalk requirement. And then also replace 20 feet of sidewalk due to cracking. And you'll notice that those are in several different areas. I have arrows pointing to each of the different cracked sidewalk location noted by Ben Ayers in his highway report. The other deficiencies that were noted in Rangeview Circle, the petitioner has agreed to make those improvements, as well as completing all of the remaining outstanding deficiencies for South Wickens Street to be accepted into the county road inventory as a public road. The petitioner's engineer did provide a response to some of staff's questions that the Plan Commission had asked from the prior meeting, and those are his responses up on the screen. I've also included it in the packet. And I can come back to this if the Plan Commission would like. Lisa Ridge, the Monroe County Highway Department Director, did provide this letter addressed to the Plan Commission members, stating their agreement to making the roadway private, as it would not in any way meet their requirements to bring the road into the county road inventory. She listed 3 different items here, basically stating that they are happy to have the developer take over maintenance responsibility. Since the road was not constructed according to the approved plans, they do not feel comfortable with county snowplow trucks going through the areas. They believe that they may not necessarily fit perfectly through that roadway, and that might pose a hazard. And then also, since the sidewalks were not built to ADA specifications, they are not going to take responsibility for taking that into the road inventory, as that responsibility would fall on them. And this is also included in the packet, and I'm happy to come back to it if the Plan Commission would like. And this leads us into staff's recommendation. So staff's initial recommendation is to recommend sending a positive recommendation to the county commissioners if Wickens was accepted into the road inventory by today's date, March 17th, 2026. To our knowledge, this has not occurred. So planning staff would recommend continuing the petition. However, it is up to the Plan Commission members to decide how they want to vote, whether to continue the petition, to send a positive recommendation with staff's conditions, or send a negative recommendation with staff's conditions. And I will take any questions.
All right, we come back up to the commission now. Anybody on my left? Mr. Wright?
Yeah, you covered a couple of this, Sean. Thank you. I'm going to just kind of go over a few things. First will be kind of a process question. Whatever the Plan Commission determines, as stated, a positive, negative, there's also a no recommendation out there. This continues to the Board of Commissioners for their final decision, regardless of the position the Plan Commission takes, correct?
That is correct. Although I think that if the conditions are substantially changed between the, let's say there's a positive recommendation with conditions sent to the Board of Commissioners, if the commissioners chose to, I think, strike some of those positive recommendation conditions or make those less restrictive, it may come back to the Plan Commission for your final vote or understanding of those.
Right, and if the Plan Commission, let's say hypothetically says yes to this and the Board of Commissioners says no, they're still within what they committed to and have to kind of resolve that, and we might see this in a different iteration moving forward in the future.
If the final decision is to say no, then the road would remain public and they'd still be required to fix all the deficiencies, not just some.
And there's a possibility we might see some other requests, but I'll take a step back from that hypothetical. So Plan Commission recommendation is to continue it since they weren't able to meet it, get into the inventory, correct? And I know you covered this already, just.
Planning staff recommendation, yes.
And Highway is supporting allowing this to remain private due to kind of some of the deficiencies or it's not consistent with highway standards. So that's correct, right?
Correct.
Okay. I know it's questions. I have like a 5-second comment that goes really well with this. It's like, so planning and highway are the two bodies that I'm really looking towards to figure out where I should support my position on this. It's kind of split. So I'm really comfortable with continuing it, but ultimately, I'm in a position of making no recommendations and moving it forward to the Board of Commissioners to see what they ultimately do, because we're not the final say in this discussion, and I think with their role that they're going to do what they decide is the best for the county and the community. So that's kind of where my cards are, and that's all I have to say. Thank you for letting me make my
Councilman
comment.
Henry?
Yeah, thank you. I just have maybe a procedural question as I'm reading the staff recommendations. So, and refresh my memory, but recommending that Wickens be accepted in county inventory prior to Plan Commission making a vote. Isn't the Plan Commission who accepts it in inventory, or is that the Board of Commissioners?
Board of
So we would
Commissioners.
expect the Board of Commissioners to accept or decline bringing Wickens in and then come back to this? Is that the way the procedure, you envision the procedure going?
That was the original discussion point for this petition, yes.
I may have just restated what Mr. Randolph asked, just in a different way, but thank you for entertaining it. Thank you.
On my right.
Yes, I don't know if County Highway is online, because I have a question for them. Is it,
I think that they're all at the Purdue Road School Conference this week, so I don't, Lisa stated in her letter that she would not be present. I don't see anyone else from Highway in attendance because I believe they're all at that conference.
well, is there any member of staff who would be able to provide me just with a very rough back of the envelope estimate of what it would cost to repave that road and upkeep it for the length of the street and for,
I think that the petitioner's engineer might be able to give us some quick numbers, but we can also try to do that as well.
Okay, great. I just would like to, in my mind, understand the cost differential between public and private and all that entails, because I know that there are a lot of options out there, and there are various calculations as far as cost to the private parties as well as to the public parties, including the taxpayer.
And just to clarify your question, Margaret, is it to remove and replace the surface coat of Rangeview only, or?
In my experience here in Monroe County as a homeowner and as someone who is out and about, I hear stories from other members of the public who belong to homeowners associations, and when they encounter a situation where the roadway has to be replaced on a private road, they're set with the tax assessment, which in some cases could result in a homeowner losing their property because the property could be attached until that assessment would be paid. So I just don't know what the costs are for the difference between the roadway being held privately or publicly. I mean, we've heard this year, for example, demands from different political members of our community for snow removal in other privately held subdivisions where the roadways were not accepted into the public inventory. And these costs to the public should be known for us to be able to make, I think, an informed decision. Thank you.
All right, that brings us to the petitioner's rep or the petitioner, and you have 15 minutes. Please start the timer.
Hey, I'm Daniel Butler. I'm with Bynum Fanning Associates. I'm a professional engineer here in Indiana. I won't go through the presentation or the length that I did last time, but just try to give you a rundown again from our point of view of everything that's transpired to this point to kind of, and then answer any questions. Tom Weininger with ownership is with me here tonight, so if there's any questions for him. Just as a reminder that this was designed from a pavement depth, pavement width, Rangeview was designed as a public road. So everything was designed that way and built that way, with the exception of the deficiencies that you were laid out tonight, if that makes sense. So we had discussion years ago on when this was being constructed and approved about back and forth on Rangeview being a private versus public street. I think there was pros and cons to both of those. I think at that time we didn't mind going either direction, and so we're asking now. At that time, the decision was made that Rangeview should be public. So we're asking now that because the owner would like to have control over that street themselves. Again, it was built with. I think Margaret, you had some questions about any type of upkeep on that road, but that pavement depth was put in there with the intention that that would be taken over by the county, meaning that I think it's going to last a long time. So it wasn't put in with lesser degree in that regard, if that helps at all. He wants to take on his own snow plowing, cleaning, those types of things, within the development, cleaning off sidewalks. To date, Bynum Faneuil has performed an as-built on Wickens to see if there's any deficiencies on Wickens. He'd like to address all deficiencies found by the Highway Department on Wickens so that that can become a public road and taken into the inventory. And then we, as Bynum Faneuil, sees no issue with it being, with Rangeview becoming private. And staying over. We just see it from a standpoint that we don't see many from the actual public. It's not a collector road, it's just more of a local road in that regard. So staying private makes sense to us. Many of the deficiencies that were listed, he is willing to make even within Rangeview. There are some that he has indicated that he is not willing to make at this time, but everything on Wickens he is willing to make. I'll leave the rest for questions if there's anything that you want to ask. And we've progressed and had a meeting with planning since then about deficiencies found in any of those types of questions. Then happy to answer.
All right, questions from the commission, go ahead.
Hey, Dan. Thank you for coming up and speaking again. Just out of curiosity, you mentioned that Rangeview was built to spec for public takeover into the county inventory. Can you help me understand kind of how we got where we are, where it was intended to be taken to the county inventory and somewhere it kind of went off the rails and became less as it was spec'd out to be? Where did that happen? Can you kind of explain why it went that way?
I don't know every bit in detail on, but some of the deficiencies found are, cracks in sidewalks, those types of things. And so those are just something that was found. So not necessarily contributed to not wanting to build it per standards, but just simple, cracks. And there are codes that talk about, cracks being less than a 1/4 inch, then, that's really acceptable. And when they get larger than that, those really need to be fixed. And so I think mainly there was a desire from the owner to just want to maintain this in control and plow in at his own timing and maintain the road, to my understanding, sir.
But I mean, there's more than just the cracks. I mean, there's a variety of things on here that the petitioner's not willing to accommodate. So where did those things no longer become a focal point, and that calculation became no longer for this to be a public road, but to be a private road? Because that seems to have been some sort of a change that was done unbeknownst to most of us up here. And so I'm just kind of curious, at what point since 2018 did that change?
I'm not sure to the extent, and it may not be for me to answer, I'm not sure to the extent that any deficiencies found were a result of him wanting to maintain that road himself. I don't know if those two are related.
Could you speak at all as to why they would have transpired then?
Some of the deficiencies.
Yeah, I mean, because they seem to be concerted efforts to not meet the requirements. So I'm just kind of curious, you know, if it's a conscious effort, that says something.
Yeah, as the owner's representative, I was not there and understand some of why maybe some of the deficiencies took place or how those came about or decisions made. As was stated, some of those were not necessarily per plan, and those were made adjustments later. If we need to, he's here and he.
Were you a party to any of those discussions?
No, sir.
And is part of the engineering team for this, I mean, are those things that would have been instrumental as part of what you're doing with Tom?
Some of the deficiencies found certainly, could have been result of reasoning that's unbeknown to me. The plans originally, made it so that some of those could not have happened, sure, but some of those can still be obtained, or if it's not a public road, they're not the same level of deficiency, perhaps. Sure.
And is the engineer on this project, if you had known these deficiencies were going to come to be, would you have been okay with going along with the engineering for this?
You're saying if I would have known that the deficiencies, I think some of them were simply construction type things that if they would have been asked at me at the time, we could have tried to figure out a solution or a different way, sure, but that's, deficiencies are what they are at this point. And I think that some of them could have potentially been avoided, but at the same time, I think that we understand from a construction standpoint that why some of them occurred.
And on projects like this, is it routine for the builder to discuss with you or bring you in when changes like this are made, or is it pretty much a unilateral thing and then you're just along for the ride?
That varies from project to project on how something that might occur, but
give me a rough percentage.
Yeah, 50%.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Go ahead, Commissioner Thomas.
Okay, so one of the issues that's in our packet relates to Wickens Drive, and it has not yet been accepted in the county road inventory, as you noted, right? But the plan is to do that. Can you tell me when?
I believe that the steps are being taken towards that now. So the first thing that was requested was an as-built from our firm that gives an exact measurement of everything that's actually built as compared to what the plan was. And then deficiencies are found off of something that is more official rather than, somebody just doing a site inspection. And at this point, there's been no indication from from the owner that he's unwilling to make any of the deficiencies that are found on Wickens. And so sometimes those construction processes can take a little bit of time, but it sounds like some of those need to be fixed first before that might be taken into inventory.
For someone who's not in that business, a little bit of time, are you talking a 3-month window, a 6-month window, a 9-month window? I mean, I'm not going to hold you to a date, but a ballpark would be helpful for me here as I'm trying to make a decision.
Right. As you're well aware that different contractors have different times, right. I don't know if I feel comfortable unless there's he wants to speak directly to that on what he thinks the timelines might be. I don't want to say something that my best guess is 3 to 6 months.
Okay, that's understand that there are a lot of schedules at play and that it's not entirely just, hey, we want it to happen, it'll happen. I get that. I just didn't know if we were 2 years out or 5 years out, but it sounds like, okay. Thank you.
I'm going to ask planning, and then I'm pretty much going to ask you the same question. So the recommendation to continue this is in hopes that they can address Wickens and bring that into the inventory so we can kind of separate these two roads in a kind of in a different way of saying it. Is that correct?
Yeah, also, it was in Lisa Ridge's letter that the highway department wants to see Wickens accepted into the inventory.
Okay, well, perfect. Like I said, those are two experts that departments I really want to hear from to help me weigh my decision. The question is pretty similar. What are you looking at? Would you prefer this to be continued, or would you like this to be moved forward to the Board of Commissioners? And if you can't speak on their behalf, maybe you could ask real quick. I'm kind of trying to understand what your position is, if this would be best to move in a continuation, or...
It seemed to indicate from him that he's flexible. He's fine with what planning would have. I think getting an answer on how everyone views range view being private versus public would be great, but it sounds like he's flexible.
I foresee a lot of back and forth if Wickens isn't to that standard to be accepted. So like I feel like we can kind of get this cart in order, and I'm at this point, and my position is to support the staff's recommendation and continue this forward as you try to work out the Wickens thing. So maybe it's only a little less of a question when it makes it to the Board of Commissioners to determine what they're going to do about the other roadway.
Yeah, I think we would align with, I don't think there's any conditions in the positive recommendation that staff is giving that we would be against or anything. We've been trying our best to work with them as we've met to go efficiencies found, find if with an as-built, if that's true, and what standards that they may or may not meet, public versus private.
Awesome. And then one more question to planning. Since, it's hard to determine maybe when this Wickens could be built to highway standards and potentially be accepted into the right-of-way, is there any timeline that we need to be aware of that we're making this decision prior to, or should we continue this to a certain meeting or give you discretion to bring it back when maybe that portion of this is resolved?
I believe we'll have to state what meeting this gets continued to and what the date of that meeting will be on record. If the petitioner's representative is saying 3 to 6 months, we could put it on the agenda for 3 months from now. I do think that the two projects that are going to take a little bit longer are the relocation of the mailboxes, because they'll have to work with the U.S. Postal Service, and that can take a little bit of time. And the additional construction of, I think it was 151 feet of sidewalk on the west side of South Wickens. That's going to also require the developer to work with a private owner to get a driveway permit. And I don't know how responsive that private developer will be. And they don't want to, Tom doesn't want to put in the sidewalk to block their access. If they don't have a driveway permit, it could get damaged. So it's going to be pretty quick turnaround. Once he gets the sidewalk in on that side, he's going to quickly ask for that to be accepted. So I think 3 months check-in is probably as soon as it could be, depending these changes. I don't know that we've seen any correspondence as of late as to making progress on those two specific items. So it will take some time.
All right, and is there a particular date we need to be aware of so we don't go past that?
I don't have a particular day.
Okay. So but even if we moved it 4, 5 months, that still kind of falls within what you're looking at?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bush. I think my question has been answered. Councilman Henry, you got anything?
I have a follow-up question for staff, if I might, since you're up here. I wonder if it's possible, since these really are two separate issues, if those could be addressed separately. So for example, setting out a timeline for Wickens that allows that 6 or 8 months or something to go by before instituting a letter of credit, a bond for the rest of that Wickens project. And then separately, if this Plan Commission decides to address the Rangeview Circle issue more urgently, if that's the decision here, with a separate bond, inflation-based bond for the Rangeview Circle. Y'all see what I'm saying?
Yes.
I wonder if we could separate these two things out. And I think we could, but I'm just throwing that out there, and if you have any concerns.
So the specific request before you, the outline plan amendment, is only for making Rangeview private. By default, Wickens would remain publicly classified. So we could, the Plan Commission could come up with some sort of condition that states Wickens has a timeline for acceptance, or possibly implementing some sort of letter of credit to that effect. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'll have to talk to legal about that.
I think you could go either way and have them do the letter of credit and finish that up, or set a timeline for that.
But both. Could we set a timeline, and if they don't meet that timeline, then ask for the letter of credit?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Just to continue that, would that mean there's a chance that planning could come back next month with it separated, or were you thinking that we could take action today, maybe move this to the end of the agenda, give them some time to provide a way forward to separate the question? Because I'm in support of that. I'm just kind of trying to see if that's something we should try to hash out today, or just let them come back next month and address them separately.
Is that a question or is that a comment?
A discussion, but it could be a question to planning too, as far as what they would prefer.
Just clarify just a second. And
Dr. Clements?
repeat what I thought I heard planning already say, and that is that they recommended not separating them out, but making whatever our motion is on Rangeview to be conditioned with the timeline as well as a letter of credit, if I heard correctly.
So our initial thought is to possibly continue this 1 month to
Yes.
see if we can get timelines and progress on Wickens being accepted.
Yes?
The easiest thing for us would be to come with this petition with Wickens already accepted.
I see.
And then you could knock out that part of the conversation completely and know that it's been inspected, it's been approved, and it's in the inventory. So if there's not a rush on the petitioner's part to get Rangeview reclassified as private, and we don't have a timeline for which we have to make a decision, it could be that this is the carrot to get this petition through. It's on everyone's radar. And in the meantime, we make progress on the Rangeview voluntary improvements and Wickens so that you can make the informed decision. And I do have a number for you, Margaret, for your first question on, I went back to the estimate that we had in place for Rangeview and adding up just the quantities and then using the 2025 NDOT pricing. This is strictly for surface coat The amount total for Rangeview alone would be $57,854.10. And that's using the Highway Department's original estimate and updating the unit pricing.
How often would that quote need to be applied? Do you have an idea?
I do not know how long surface coat would last.
It would last a few years.
Else?
You had a question?
I had a bit of a follow-up, if I might.
Go ahead.
So the concern here is that we don't have, when you have in your notes the negative recommendation, it says, we do not have an accurate estimate since we do not have a new engineered plan for. So how do we get that done in a month? I don't think we're going to. That's my concern, is that this could just, we could just be postponing the inevitable here, because it didn't sound like there were plans to make Rangeview public, right? So that was clear. That's clear now, and that was clear. I mean, am I wrong on that?
No, I think we're okay. Now we prefer that it to be private.
Right. So it seems to me we're postponing the inevitable here. But we don't have an estimate, but I don't think we need that to make a decision. Right?
I think the negative recommendation, just to clarify, we cannot do, those aren't necessarily conditions. We would just have to figure those out as staff.
Right.
But the reality is a negative vote to continue to make Rangeview public instead of private is that we need to hold them to a letter of credit amount to fix the deficiencies. And I don't know that we got to the bottom of that because we did look through the manual for construction in the right-of-way, and there is some issue for some of those driveways. And so it's going to be very difficult to come up with new plans, as you saw with, for instance, another subdivision in the county where you already have a steep driveway and you need to possibly make it steeper to fix the sidewalk. So I don't know to what extent that would cost, or if there's another engineering idea that would be factored into that letter of credit.
Right. Right.
So a negative recommendation puts staff in a position to ask for a letter of credit, but we don't have the engineered plans to remediate it.
Right.
So then we don't have an amount yet
Right.
to ask.
But that's not necessary to make a motion to that effect.
Correct.
It's just something that has to be done.
It's a reality.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
All right. I think it's important that Wickens and Rangeview be separated. I think they should have their own period of performance. I think they should have their own letter of credit. I mean, it's important to Highway, after reading this letter several times, that we bring that road, Wickens, into the inventory. So I think we should do whatever we can do to get it into the inventory. That's one issue, solve it, put it to the side. With respect to Rangeview, I still have serious concern over the deficiencies. And if you'll go ahead and put page 10 back up there. I mean, there are, if I counted these correctly, there's 15 deficiencies on this page. And 9 of them have not willing. 6 have willing. That's a serious non-compliance issue. And they need to be addressed. And the last meeting, I brought up the words of systemic non-compliance. And what I was hopeful for is that, and we had asked for, is to take and put in one place all the deficiencies from the inspection reports and what are the comments going over the last few years, put them in one place. Let's go ahead and itemize them and then go down that list and figure out where we are on each and every one of them. And did that meeting take place between the last meeting and today on this, and this is the result of that meeting?
That is correct.
Okay. And of the 9 that say not willing, has there been within the last week or so, any movement whatsoever on whether or not you want to come into compliance? And they're the ones highlighted in red there.
Unless the owner wants to speak to these, I think what they have listed is correct.
I'm seeing a nodding of your head back there, so, all right. I mean, even when you made reference to the positive recommendation saying you could live with what those comments were, item 3. Item 3 was amend the parking striping from perpendicular to parallel to match the approved plans with West Rangeview Circle. And of course, that's in red here, that's in conflict, that comment. So which is true?
I think he originally was asking that he did not want to comply with that, but that would be, if there's a positive recommendation given and we move this forward, I think that's something that he would live with.
See them nodding yes in the back. Okay. The other thing I want to bring up, and it's really in the Highway Department's letter, and it's very bold. And it deals with the ADA noncompliance. And I keep bringing this up in many forums. That's the safety aspect of it. There's a real concern about people getting hurt, particularly when cars are parked a certain way and the roads are, I've driven out there a couple times now. It's a really, really highly impacted area with vehicles. And I don't know how many kids are in the neighborhood, but running between those cars, that's very, very dangerous. So there is a serious, in my mind, safety issue. The other thing that Ms. Ridge brings up is a liability issue because of the ADA noncompliance. And the fact that the county does not want to assume that liability. I assume that would pass on to the petitioner if in fact it becomes private, correct?
That's correct.
And those were my comments, that's all. Honestly, I was looking for changes to the items listed in red on that one deficiency sheet. Okay, anybody else before we proceed with public comment? Okay, now we move into the public comment portion for those in favor. Anybody online or in the room? Okay, anybody who's opposed? Online or in a room? Okay, so now we come back to the plan comments on the left.
Ready to make a motion, but I'll wait for comments.
Councilman Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, staff. And I think it's important to focus on the positive. That I think not so much focusing on what's not being agreed to move forward with in terms of Rangeview, is to say that it sounds like there was a good conversation between staff and developer on meeting some standards. That's a positive we should point out in this room today. There's also the fact that we have highway of their bulleted points saying ultimately keeping the road Rangeview private is important as well, based on the conflict between what was developed and what's in the CDO. So I think there's value on recognizing the work that was done to get to today and the recommendations that were put forth by staff. I appreciate the separation of the question because there are two conversations here about the ingress with Wickens and getting that close to finished, and then where we are with Rangeview. And I think for me, keeping centered on the question of the petition is more important than developing or risking straw man discussions about safety and ADA compliance in the neighborhood. There are plenty of neighborhoods in Monroe County where that slope is grandfathered in or previous iterations of development ordinance that can be pointed to. And so some of this is intriguing when we get into children in the neighborhood or how many children in the neighborhood or what safety concerns are. It sounds like keeping the road private puts that liability with a potential successor or HOA that would take on that burden to maintain ingress and egress there. So I would just say that, I think we have some positive motion here for continuance. I would agree with that recommendation today to move forward with it. The good news is we got some progress between our experts at Highway and Planning and with the developer here to move forward. So I appreciate that good effort as we move forward here.
I would like to say something,
Dr. Clements?
Yes. For me, having this road in a private inventory has always been problematic, and we have an agreement that it would be entered into the public inventory. And that was important to me when this PUD was approved, and it remains important to me at this time. I just want to say that it should be built to standard and it should be built to compliance. And I just would like to affirm that.
Mr. Bush?
Yes. Appreciate your comments, Mr. Butler. I am not opposed to continuing this. I still have a real problem with some construction results that happened on Rangeview Circle. I know I'm a party, and so I'm looking at the record as to how some of this happened. I know that in some other developments, I've heard there's been issues because they hit rock and they couldn't go as deep as they wanted. And on this one, it seems like I believe it's in the Mr. Smith's comments that the as-built townhomes on the north side of the development were built too high, and resulting in sidewalk cross slopes that exceed the 2% maximum. I'm suspicious as to whether that was what the cause of that was. If it was that the subsurface investigations weren't performed such that they realized that in the original design that it was realized that the bedrock was shallower than anticipated, that's something that's preventable, and it's something that with proper due diligence and proper design on the front end would prevent those as-builts from being built the way they were. Therefore, I'm okay with continuing this, but I am going to be very wary of approving planned unit developments going forward where there's not enough work done on the front end to assure me that that the finished design will at least closely mimic what is being proposed on the front. Thank you.
Any other comments from the commission? Motion?
I would like to make a motion. With, I guess, one question to planning. I was thinking about continuing this to the May meeting to give you a couple of months. Do you see any urgency, or is planning have a quite a large workload where it'd be nice to have kind of a 2-month period to, because my motion's going to ask for a few things.
Depending on what you're looking for at that next meeting, the petitioner's representative is saying 3 to 6 months for Wickens improvements, so I don't know if in 1 month we would have a substantial update.
Let me make my motion and then I'll see what your thoughts are on what day we continue to. I'd like to make a motion to continue case number PUD-23-5 with planning looking at if they could possibly separate the two roads into two separate petitions, Winwick and Rangeview Road, with the hopes that we can get Winwick Road into the county inventory prior to this meeting and present that to us. And that's where I'm kind of going to ask at like the May admin meeting, so then we can kind of discuss it at the May regular meeting. Would that be easier as far as a timeline? Because it might take a little while for you to look at if you can separate these two different requests.
So I think that the motion is to continue the petition to give staff time to separate out Rangeview and Wickens.
If
and-
possible.
If possible, and to maybe assign a little bit more detailed information like letter of credit costs or something like that.
Yes. Well, yeah, we could, but I just, if it get figure out.
Yeah,
And
so
not
the
if possible.
petitioner's request is to make Rangeview private. They're not changing the classification of Wickens to public, but we could come back for more information, separating that out in the staff report. It won't be something you can vote on separately, like there won't be a PUO 23.5A Rangeview, PUO 23.5B Wickens, because Wickens was never petitioned to change.
Okay, so maybe I kind of was following the conversation a little inaccurate. I thought that was a possibility. If you're thinking now that it's not, so I would just ask to continue this petition, PUO -23-5, and I'm going to ask for it to be moved forward 3 months at the June 16th regular and commission meeting, in hopes that they're able to get to a point where when it could be accepted into the inventory, or we're pretty confident that that's going to occur. So basically spacing out to that 3 months from now. That's my motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to continue PUO-23-5 Highlands PUO Outline Plan Amendment to Parcel E to June
Point of order,
16th.
point of order. Can I offer a friendly amendment now, or do we have to wait until after?
Go ahead and offer it.
I thought we talked about having a period of performance for completion and a letter of credit as well. Was that part of your motion?
Yeah, I'm okay with
I think we need to, I think we
that,
need to.
but do we have to stipulate that? I thought that would.
I think you do have to stipulate that.
He's postponing our decision until June, so that includes that.
We do or we don't need to add that.
I wouldn't bother, because what he's doing is continuing the petition. Correct me if I'm wrong, you're continuing the petition, you're motioning to continue the petition till June, so we aren't making a decision on anything.
Yeah, pretty right.
Okay, I withdraw the friendly amendment comment.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to continue PUO-23-5 to June 16th, 2026. And the comment there is in hopes that the petitioner makes progress on getting Wickens accepted into the road inventory and voluntary improvements to Rangeview completed. A vote yes is a vote to continue this to June 16th, 2026. Jeff Morris?
Yes.
Julie Thomas?
No.
David Bush?
Yes.
Margaret Clemens?
No.
Tron Enright Randolph?
Yes.
Scott Ferris?
No.
David Henry?
Yes.
Okay, that motion does fail 4-3. Sorry, did I call Julie Thomas? Yes, I did. Thank you.
I was
Okay.
a no.
So again, point of order, what's the next step now that it failed?
Someone could do another motion, and if that also fails, eventually we will get to the point where we just have to put this on the next agenda, which is in May. sorry, in April.
May I ask a question for clarification? It seems like Wiccans really shouldn't be part of this at all. And it's a separate issue, right? So that might help somebody make a motion. I'm just going to throw that out there.
I will say that it's been several years since these have been completed, and the petitioner has been made aware of the inspection report to get Wiccans in the inventory. And these recent conversations have been the most productive in getting them to move in that direction. But yes, they are separate.
It could become an enforcement action or something else. Okay, thank you.
Point of information, Mr. President. Point of information, Mr. President. Point of information, Mr. President.
They're conferring.
We were just discussing that the prior outline plan amendment and the underlying outline plan, which was approved by the city, so the 2018 outline plan amendment to change those setbacks, part of the requirements for those approvals, the outline plan, the development plan, was to post a letter of credit, was to make sure Wiccans is still public. So none of that is being eliminated here in this amendment. It's strictly just reviewing whether Rangeview can be private. So we do have the ability to still enforce or require all of those other improvements that are building us up to this point.
Absolutely. I certainly recognize that. Absolutely. But I just think for this particular petition, maybe just if we drop consideration of Wiccans, it doesn't mean it doesn't have to be done, but if we take that out of the mix, then maybe somebody can make a motion that will pass.
Councilman Henry, did you have a question?
Yeah, it's related to this. So two parts. One is, why was staff's recommendation conditional with Wiccans attached to this? What was the origin of that request?
So we want to so typically when we have a subdivider developer in front of us, we have a letter of credit on file and a performance period and an inflation adjustment. We do not have that with this development anymore. So we will need to reinstate that. One of the things that we've found is that with the inflation adjustment, developers are coming to us and trying to get their developments finished in a timely fashion. Whereas prior, where they could renew at the same amount, they were not moving very quickly. So we have not seen a very quick move to make Wiccans public. There is a cost associated with making Wiccans public, and we haven't seen that progress being made at all.
So because that does track with Commissioner Thomas's question about dividing the question, right? Planning staff or somewhere, we made a condition, Wiccans being conditional for Rangeview Circle, right? But what prevents us from dividing the question and taking these as two different cases?
They have not requested any change to Wiccans from being public. So regardless, we can start enforcement or do another pathway to get Wiccans accepted. Tying it to this petition has just been helpful in that they seem motivated to turn Rangeview private. And it seems like it would be prudent for you all to see progress being made on at least some portion of the road becoming public or being accepted into the inventory. But they would have to come back to you to make it private. But we can't force them to do those improvements any faster. They're not.
I follow that piece. That's the logic piece. So to the chairman, yeah, the point of information is, is there anything that prevents the Plan Commission from dividing the question and considering Wiccans and Rangeview separately, despite staff's recommendation? Could we divide the question and just take them as separate?
You could drop Wiccans altogether. Yes, all these conditions are for you to consider.
And there's no petition on the table regarding Wiccans right now. So,
Correct.
So here's an education for me. Isn't it between the highway department and the petitioner when it comes to the inventory and satisfying the resolution of those deficiencies? And assuming that the highway department works with the petitioner and they resolve all those things and pass whatever inspections needs to pass, that the highway department takes the action then to pull it in the inventory? And if that is the case, and this is education for me, does it even have to come back to the plan commission?
No, it would not.
Wickens.
For Wickens?
For Wickens, if Wickens was accepted into the inventory,
Okay, and so I would offer that's exactly what we need to do then, and separate these two, put it between the highway department and the petitioner, let them resolve the deficiencies, do the inspection, pull it into the inventory. Now, do we need a separate motion to do that, or is that something that is already in play?
the highway department typically operates as people want to have their roads taken into the inventory. They're not necessarily going and searching for roads that were dedicated as being public and are still private. So I would say that if you could, as a comment, if not a condition, state that, with my motion, I would expect that, that Wickens be accepted into the inventory in 6 months' time, or else we could forward legal to start an enforcement action, or you could state, or we could ask planning staff to give you a status update in 6 months' time on the agenda about whether it's been done, and we can go from there.
Just to be clear, the bond that we hold for Wickens is insufficient to finish the work for Wickens?
So we do not have a letter of credit for this development. I don't know if the highway department still has any kind of driveway surety, which is like the entry point for Wickens and Rockport, but to my knowledge, we do not have any funds. But in speaking with Mr. Schilling, we can of course reinstate those because it was a requirement of the approval.
See, thank you.
All right, so right now there's no motion on the table. Do we have a new motion on the table to take? Anybody? My left. All right.
If we don't make a motion, it comes back before us in April, right?
Said.
So,
It comes back to us in April because we have no motion. What you're doing is status update on everything we just talked about.
We would try to keep it to updates, but yes, we could hypothetically restart this conversation.
so, well, just as a bellwether and with my finger up in the air, I'd like to make a motion on PUO-23-5 that we send a negative recommendation to the commissioners. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to send a negative recommendation to the county commissioners for PUO-23-5. A vote yes is a vote to send a negative recommendation. David Bush,
Yes.
Margaret Clemens,
Yes?
Tron Enright Randolph,
No.
Scott Ferris,
Yes.
David Henry, Jeff Morris,
Yes.
Julie Thomas.
Yes.
Okay, so that motion does pass 5-2.
All right. So let's go ahead and move on to new business. And this is the SMN 25-7, the Robert Marr Minor Subdivision Primary Plat Amendment 1. And looks like there's a width waiver request and also a waiver of final hearing. And I think that's you, Drew. So please proceed.
One moment, let me get the slideshow up here. Right. All right, one more moment while this page loads for me.
While the page loads, and I just like to be transparent, and I have no financial conflict of interest in this case, and I am an acquaintance of the petitioner. We have not spoken about this case, and I wonder if the petitioner or if anyone on the commission has an objection to me sitting on and hearing this case.
I would just say that I'm going to support this. I feel like it's going to be an easy one. So if it makes it you more comfortable by excusing yourself, I think it's going to fly through. So just I'm putting my cards out there. I'm supporting this.
I don't feel like I have a conflict, and I just want to give the petitioner a chance to ask that I not sit in on it. But if it's okay, I will remain. Thank you.
All right. So this is SMN-25-7, the Robert Marr Minor Subdivision Primary Plat Amendment 1. It does include a road width waiver request. This is the preliminary hearing, and a waiver of final hearing has been requested. This is for 2 parcels on 31.57 acres in Indian Creek Township, Section 8, at 7626 South Birch Road. The property is currently zoned agricultural residential 2.5. The petitioner is proposing a primary plat amendment to the Robert Marr Minor Subdivision in order to subdivide the existing 31.57 acres of lot number 2 to create a new lot containing 10.19 acres. The original Robert Marr Minor Subdivision established 2 lots across 41.77 acres, and this was done under the previous zoning ordinance. The minor subdivision procedure allows to create up to 4 lots, as long as each lot contains a minimum of 10 acres when serviced by a septic system. So because the original subdivision created only 2 lots, a 3rd lot is possible through the primary plat amendment procedure. Proposed lot 2 will contain, proposed lot 2A will contain 21.38 acres or 19.73 acres buildable, and include the existing existing structures at 7626 South Birch Road, with existing road frontage and access to South Birch Road via an existing platted 50-foot egress easement that cuts through Lot 1 of the original Robert Marr Minor Subdivision. Lot 1 of that subdivision is not impacted by this amendment, as the existing access to Lot 2 will remain, and the dimensions of Lot 1 are not being adjusted through this amendment. The proposed new lot, Lot 3A, will contain 10.19 acres, 9.77 acres buildable, and have road frontage and access to South Birch Road independently. The primary plat, as I stated, does include the waiver request for road width, as South Birch Road measures 17 feet in width. According to Chapter 832-8A, the subdivisions accessed from existing roads less than 18 feet in width shall be prohibited unless waived pursuant to Subdivision Waiver Section, Chapter 830-10, and is reviewed by the Plan Commission. So road widths less than or equal to 17 feet with an ADT of less than or equal to 80 vehicles per day is the requirement for the waiver request. The petitioner has submitted traffic data, which was provided to the Highway Department for ADT calculations, and the Highway Department provided those calculations. They are included in this presentation, although the exhibit itself did not make it into the staff packet, but I will show that on the screen here shortly. The Highway Department, therefore, does support the road width waiver request, citing the ADT data from those calculations. Also on the screen is the Stormwater/Drainage Board comments. The Drainage Board approved the subdivision at their meeting on February 20th, 2026, with the following comments, 1 through 3. 1 being add a 30-foot drainage easement centered on the flow lines at the north end of the property. Number 2, place the pond in its outflow within a drainage easement. That's on Lot 3A. And they also stated that there are no known sinkholes or karst features on the property. Each of those comments have been addressed by the petitioner and the petitioner's representative. Now on the screen is the memorandum from the Highway Department that verifies the ADT calculations and their support for the road width waiver request. This was not included in the packet as I received it after the date of the publishing, but I am showing to you now on the screen for the record. Now on the screen is a summary of the 2 lots that are being changed here. We have Lot 2A and Lot 3A. On the left-hand column, we have different categories, including wastewater, property access, right-of-way dedication, environmental conditions, existing structures, and then in the bottom, we have Chapter 832, improvement and design standards, details. All of this information is included in the packet. As I stated before, this is a primary plat amendment, so it has been platted already. There is existing dedicated right-of-way, and there are existing access points, and then, of course, the new access point to Lot 3A. When this was originally approved as well, it received a buried utility waiver, and now they were requesting the road width waiver. That is different than in the original application because the previous zoning ordinance and subdivision control ordinance did not have specific development standards regarding the 18-foot wide requirement for minor subdivisions. And that was updated with the county development ordinance, which was adopted December 18th, 2024. Now I'll click through some exhibits. Here's the location map. We're in Indian Creek Township. This is South Birch Road on the north side here. We have the zoning map showing the agricultural residential zone. Here on the screen, we have the site conditions map showing slopes greater than 25%. You'll see that there are very few. Those are tinged with the red. That's kind of hard to see, but there are some slopes greater than 25% as you get south on the property towards the existing pond and the stream or creek that's back there as well. And then just some aerial imagery here. And then some on the ground photos. So this on the left-hand side is where the new proposal for Lot 3A is located, and the driveway will be located in this area as well. And on the right-hand side of the screen, we have the existing driveway that cuts through Lot number 1 that provides access through a 50-foot ingress-egress easement to Lot 2A. Now on the screen is some pictures of some structures that are on the existing Lot 2, which will become Lot 2A. The structure as well, again on Lot 2A. Now on the screen is the primary plat amendment document. I'm going to go ahead and click to the next page that has a little bit zoomed in of the dimensions here and the configuration. So you can see Lot 3A on the eastern side. That's the newly created lot from the original Lot 2. And then Lot 2A still showing the existing structures. Lot 3A has that existing pond now placed in a drainage easement per the Drainage Board's comments. And Lot 2A also includes a tree planting area, preservation area in the southwest corner. That is a requirement of the County Development Ordinance in lieu of street trees being planted along the street. Although street tree plantings aren't required for this subdivision, when that requirement is not needed, there is still a requirement for a tree preservation area, and that is shown on the plat. And now on the screen is the original Robert Marr minor subdivision that shows the larger existing Lot 2 and again the unchanged Lot 1. And now on the screen we have the findings of fact submitted by the petitioner on the left, and on the right we have the raw data from the traffic analysis that was provided to planning and highway staff. All right, now for staff's recommendation. Staff recommends approval for the subdivision based on the finding that the proposed primary plat meets the county development ordinance, subject to the highway engineer and stormwater program manager reports. Additionally, approve the road width waiver request, citing practical difficulties have been demonstrated. And we originally had a set of conditions, 1 through 3. Each of those have been completed since the plat committee hearing, and so I can read them, but they're here, and just for the record, they each have been completed. Thank you. I will now take any questions.
Okay, questions from the commissioners up left? Right? Okay, petitioner or petitioner's representative, you've got 15 minutes.
The sun is still shining and it's St. Patty's Day.
And if you approach the podium, state your name and sign in, please.
Hi, I'm Eric Deckard with Deckard Land Surveying, and we agreed to the recommendations by staff, and in fact, they've already been submitted back to planning. If there's any questions that the commission may have, be glad to answer.
Questions left? Questions right? No. All right. So
Very clear.
I guess we can move on to public comment. Those in favor in the room or online? Anybody? All right. Anybody opposed?
There were two people raised their hands
I can't see them.
that they would like to speak.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then go ahead and approach the podium, sign in, and state your name.
Did you wish to speak?
Do you wish to speak?
Okay, no, they're just saying that they support it.
Okay, then we'll wave
They're
right back
voting
at you
with their
there.
hands.
Thanks,
Got it.
Thank you. Anybody else want to wave their hand back there? All right. Okay, anybody opposed online or in the room? I see none. So now we come back to the Plan Commission left. We're going to start on the right on this time. Any comment on the right? Any comment on the left? Motion, please.
I'll go ahead and make one. In case number SMN-25-7, the Robert M. Marr and Bonna McCuston property, I recommend we approve this subdivision based on the findings of fact that the proposed primary plat meets the county development ordinance, subject to the highway engineer and stormwater program manager reports, and approve the road width waiver request citing practical difficulties that had been demonstrated, subject to the following conditions, which I believe have all been met. Conditions 1, 2, and 3. Do I need to state them?
I don't believe you'll need to have any conditions if they've all been met.
Okay, very good. And also a waiver of the final hearing.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve SMN-25-7, which includes the approval of the primary plat amendment 1, approval of the road width waiver, and approval of a waiver of final hearing. A vote yes is a vote to approve all 3 items. Margaret Clemens,
Yes.
Tron Enright Randolph,
Yes.
Scott Ferris,
Yes.
David Henry,
Yes.
Jeff Morris,
Yes.
Julie Thomas,
Yes.
David Bush.
Yes.
Okay, motion is approved, 7-0. Thank you.
All right, that moves us on to public comment for items not on the agenda. Anybody in the room or online? You have 3 minutes. I see none. That comes to staff reports. Ms. Jelen,
I don't believe I have anything.
our fine Esquire lawyer.
No report.
Do I have a motion to end the meeting and adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Great job.